It's non-ethical, it's money-making, it's not true medicine, there's no pathology behind it, there's no real physiology or anatomical like landmarks, it's just guesswork.
But let's be honest, this is an industry of luxuries. No one needs this stuff, okay? It's a want. No one needs a pair of Louboutins, no one needs a Ferrari. It's a luxury industry. So if you're good at what you do, if you're ethical, if you buy the book, don't be afraid to charge top dollar for your work. 1 in 4 dentists now offers facial aesthetics. I would say it's a disadvantage. It's not an advantage to have, it's a disadvantage not to offer it.
When I first increased my prices, I thought, I'm going to see less patients. They're going to go to someone who's cheaper. It got busier.
Because you learn very quickly how to attach a value to your skill. Those that find it difficult to talk about money initially after a training course often find it hard to put a value to the skill they say.
Decisions of yesterday define our tomorrow and now our today. So we really need to make the decisions today if you want to change your tomorrow. If where you are today and you're not happy, then if you don't do anything about it today, tomorrow's not going to be any different.
Hello, my name is Dr. Roche, and this is our brand new podcast, Sliding into the DMs. Here, we will be talking about all things aesthetics. Valuable information for you guys, where we'll be discussing multiple things such as complications, our trainer journeys, and our tips and tricks to become very successful in the industry. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can get the latest information. To my left, we have Dr. Amrit Tiara. He started out as a delegate, then a trainer, then clinical director, and now I'm very proud to say he is our CEO. We also have Dr. Zach Ali, the original, who started out Derma Medical with his wife, Sana. Welcome to the podcast, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Zach, my first question is to you. The aesthetics industry is really booming right now, but 12 years ago, it wasn't anywhere near as popular. Tell me why you made the decision to go into aesthetics.
I think like many junior doctors, they get tired with the system. You know, they're tired running around, relocating all the time. They have very little flexibility in their day-to-day lives. Many struggle to get a mortgage. You also find that, targets in the NHS, decision-making, people tend to have very little time to actually explore something outside of medicine. And many of us enter this corporate world where we have to progress to a consultant. Little flexibility and choice. When you're looking at the world of aesthetics, it's a very different world. There's the chance to diversify your skill set. Something I saw very early is to have more freedom, a lot more autonomy. Of course, there's a higher earning potential, and it's a very creative, hands-on medical field, which is quite new and emerging. And that's something I saw very quickly. It was my first inspiration when I saw The Apprentice and I saw Dr. Leah Totten, and that was something that opened my eyes up towards the world of aesthetics.
It's really tough to make that decision to go into it in the first place. I'm not sure about you, but when I first got into aesthetics, I had a lot of colleagues who raised their concerns. Was that difficult for you, especially coming from a family of medics? You must have had that.
I mean, as you say, I come from a family of 30 medics. I was pretty much born with a stethoscope around my neck. Didn't have a choice, really, just what specialty of medicine to get into. But I think, when you see the other world of aesthetics, you'll see it's competitive. There's opinions, especially those amongst the old school medics. There's opinions about it's not really medicine, it's unethical, it's a money-making industry. But we have to remember as well, we're not just treating the psychology, but we are treating certain medical conditions. The stuff we teach on our courses, excessive sweating, migraines, spasticity, asymmetries caused from medical conditions. There's a lot we're doing for patients that really isn't really out there. It's something we teach and something we offer in practice.
Absolutely. And Zach, it must have taken a while. It must have been quite scary to go into this journey, especially being a junior doctor where obviously you're not earning very much. How long did it take you to reach financial freedom or stability?
I mean, that's a good question. I think a lot of people want to know what the earning potentials are in aesthetics, and sometimes that's the main motivator for people getting into the field. My answer to that is, money doesn't just fall into your lap. Although that could be a motivator, it's something you've got to work towards. Now, we have to remember this is a new world. As NHS doctors, you finish medical school, you enter the corporate ladder, you're not paid much, but it's often driven by career progression. Whereas in the world of aesthetics, you are your own boss. What you earn is how much you put in. So I spent my junior doctor salary really investing in training, of which there was hardly any. So I traveled the world, I'd pick up techniques, I'd observe people. Sometimes you learn the right way and the wrong way to do things. And then as you develop and practice more, as we did, we developed our own techniques, our landmarks. And I think it took a good solid year and a half to really get grounding and start seeing patients. And very quickly we noticed the value of social media. We live in a very visual industry, and the world we're in today, people are looking on social media and looking at the quality of work they're entering. So we targeted the social media platforms to really use that as an educational platform. What that did is it attracted models, something I recommend any delegate does after a training course, and it attracted medical professionals wanting to learn the stuff. So we put it together, we created a business where models and patients are able to pay a discounted fee for the purpose of teaching, and of course doctors, healthcare professionals are able to enter the system. Straight away, just to go on from there, we were able to create a pathway for doctors. So those that wanting to get in, like I did, how do I get from A to B? How do I start a business in aesthetics? And what we did really is create a pathway from a beginner journey all the way through to an advanced level. With that comes insurance, how to inject, how to get started, how to find patients, all the hurdles that I discovered when I was a junior doctor, learning how to get into the field of aesthetics.
Paving the way for us. Yeah,
you could say so.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you spoke about social media. I was just wondering, Amrit, is that how you found that? Because you were one of his first delegates.
Yeah, so I came across Derma Medical very, very early on. It's been about 6-7 years now. And essentially for me, it was due to my sister, who was very passionate about the industry, wanted to get in, having a pharmacy background, wanted to do something a bit more hands-on practical. So I was very much in attendance purely for moral support. I was there to help guide her into an industry that's completely new to her, and injecting wasn't something that they did in daily practice. But being an anaesthetist, intensive care background, for me, that was needles are my thing on a daily basis. So I just attended, and I had that sort of mentality, kind of like what Zach described. It's non-ethical, it's money-making, it's not true medicine, there's no pathology behind it, there's no real physiology or anatomical like landmarks, it's just guesswork. And then just sort of seeing the actual models being treated in action, that's kind of when I really started to appreciate the impact it has, both in an immediate physical cosmetic perspective, but also just long-term in self-esteem, confidence, and the way a person feels about their appearance. And that's very much my journey. And I think for me, the pathway was shortened because Zach had already invested years in refining the techniques and putting together a very standardized curriculum and landmark-based training. So I got to pick all his years and years worth of tips up in a few courses, and I was ready to fly. But for me, I think the challenging part was learning social media. As doctors, as Zach mentioned, we don't get trained in marketing, business, finance, recruitment, any of those things. We're not trained in. We're just trained in performing high quality patient care. And of course, that's the foundation of aesthetics, providing high quality treatments in a safe clinical fashion. But none of it is how do you acquire those patients? How do you manage it as a business? How do you maximize your profit margins? How do you grow and scale the business? All of that was the hardest part. And that's kind of what I really think this podcast is about, is sharing that journey.
The Artistic Facial Transformation course is our latest course in aesthetic medicine. This course covers the 4 types of patient we typically see in clinic. Commonly males interested in angles and masculinization, younger females interested in contouring and beautification, profile treatments from hairline to jawline, and the older customer that's not quite surgical but can benefit from non-surgical rejuvenation. Delegates will be taught to use needle and microcannula techniques, where we cover multiple layers, approaching the face holistically. We cover the 4 types of face shape: round, square, oval and triangular, and the 3 types of class profile: class 1, class 2 and class 3. Using this knowledge, we can show how to balance and create harmony. And the main aim of this course is to show how high volumes of dermal filler can look natural, despite the quantity we use. I think just to add on to what Amrit said, you'll find lots and lots of doctors are not aware of the business world outside of medicine. So as he said, as you probably found as well, starting a business isn't just a matter of learning a skill. You've got to learn the skill, you've got to market the skill, and you've got to think about how you can actually make some returns on your investment. How do I invest in marketing? How do I get my name out there? How do I attract patients to come through the door? And then how do I maintain this business? And I've always thought, and as Derma Medical has grown over the last 9-10 years, you'll spend the first 3 years of your life really looking after your business, but it will spend a lifetime looking after you.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, actually. And it's that sort of transfer of knowledge that I find so useful. So Zach, you obviously mentored Amrit, and Amrit was actually the first person who taught me when I came on Derma Medical all those years ago. So that transfer of knowledge just makes things so much easier. You literally are paving the way for the juniors, so we don't have to go through the difficulties.
Yeah.
Amrit, going back to what you said, you obviously have a passion for ITU. You're obviously very good at it. How did you balance being an ITU registrar and an aesthetician?
So for me, I was very early. I was only FY2 when I started my aesthetic training, and it wasn't long after that I started my core anesthetic training, intensive care training, and it's a relentless time. You're full-time training, you're doing night shifts, weekends, while also trying to learn a completely new specialty and then branch out into a business. So it kind of meant that it was a very disciplined time for me. I had to focus all of my time, energy, and effort into both my NHS training and career, but then also into aesthetics, because at that point, aesthetics for me wasn't a guarantee, it wasn't a given. It was still a very new niche field to be getting into. But you'd be surprised how much demand there is. Forever, I've always been hearing this statement: aesthetics is saturated. Aesthetics is saturated. Every year I hear this statement. And it was the same thing when I started. I thought I worried about that. But remember, it's a growing industry. So there are forever new patients. And I see this on a weekly basis in my clinic. Patients who have never had a treatment done before, and they're completely new to the field. They're entering and they're coming and trusting me with their faces. So it isn't saturated. It is us who make it feel saturated, because we create these mental barriers that, I don't want to. We create reasons why we don't want to start something new, because there's no financial security or stability or all of those safety nets that we have with the NHS recruitment pathways. So, I mean, it wasn't easy. I did get a lot of challenging colleagues who sort of frowned upon me doing this. Where's your commitment to anesthesia? You're going down the wrong route. Why are you doing these things? And they weren't supportive. But then equally, I did have some supportive colleagues who said, Amrit, I spent my entire life working for the NHS as a consultant of however many years, and they didn't feel looked after anymore. They felt that the system was now, they were a part of a system so large, it didn't look after the individuals in the system anymore. So it was an interesting journey, but absolutely, it took years before I could then start to wind down and become now full-time aesthetics.
Absolutely. And what actually made you make the decision to go into aesthetics full-time then? And leave a job you so clearly enjoyed.
I mean, Zach, you'd been telling me for years, Amrit, when are you going to give up? When are you going to stop? Well, there's no point. You don't. You won't finish. Yeah. And honestly, at the time, I was so passionate about ITU and anesthesia, which there's still a part of me that misses that. But remember, life is very varied. There are so many career avenues you can take. And we have the blinkers on from the moment we join medical school that there is only one clear predefined path. And yes, there are specialisms within that field, but they all have a very systematic approach on how you progress through that area. And the freedom in this, the choice of how many days I work, how long I work. I can do lots of short days, or I can do lots of long days. I don't have to do night shifts. I don't have to do weekends. I get to take annual leave without requesting the annual leave. I am my own boss, as Zach would say. That was probably the most, enticing factor for me. Of course, the lucrative income aspect is good too, but as an anaesthetist, as an intensivist, you can earn quite well in the NHS if you choose to. But this just gave me a lot more flexibility and freedom.
That's one of the biggest reasons. It's actually one of the reasons I got into it as well. Being able to go on holiday whenever you want, having control of the hours you work. I think a lot of people, like you said, just really focus on the money. And I think if you're focusing on the money, you end up just chasing it, and you're never actually successful in the industry. So what you want to do is make a drive to give high quality care to your patients so that they come back to you, and the money is secondary.
Yeah, I think people enter from different backgrounds as well. So Amrit started at FY2 level. We sometimes get people stuck in associate specialist jobs. There's no progression to the end of their career. They're stuck. They can't progress any further. There's no sort of opportunity for them to get further. So they're looking for other avenues. You do get junior doctors that, they learn all the science in medicine, but the minute they enter the hospital system, what you don't learn is the politics, the bureaucracy, what happens in a hospital environment, the arguments you have with staff, the lack of control of your rota. If you want to go out on a weekend, you've got to move things around. Yeah, if you want to get married, it's a whole different ballgame. There is little flexibility. You get people from various specialties, dentists. 1 in 4 dentists now offers facial aesthetics. I would say it's a disadvantage. It's not an advantage to have. It's a disadvantage not to offer it. And, we mentioned earlier about saturation in the industry. There's always a demand for high quality. Regardless how saturated the market is, there's always going to be that high quality demand and the patient that serves and needs it. And as we all grow in the industry, which is currently growing year by year, 20%, we are all raising awareness for the rest of us. So, we're actually increasing the awareness, which increases the supply, and therefore the demand needs to match. And of that demand, why not be the best? Why not offer the highest quality?
No, absolutely. And I think it's almost quite easy for the both of you to say that the market is not saturated because you've both reached dizzying heights of success. But for an aesthetic newbie, someone who's just starting out, it can be quite intimidating. I know for me, it was quite intimidating, actually. So what advice do you have for someone who's just starting out to try and be successful?
I think, if I was to have to completely restart from scratch right now, if I had to go back into it, having learned the lessons along the way, these are the kind of lessons I really feel like sharing. And this was the value of becoming a trainer. I really appreciated being able to share the same mentoring I got from Zach onto the next generation. And remember, there isn't ever an unlimited supply of injectors. It is such a busy industry that it burns you out. I can't inject now 4 or 5 days a week like I used to. And I will never go back to that routine where I was seeing 50, 60, 70 patients in a week. So that demand has to be picked up by someone. And personally, I've hired more injectors in my clinic to pick up that demand. Where do they come from? They were new too. So there is always this demand in the industry that's going to be met by having a constant need for new people to join and offer these services. But from the beginning, remember, the investment in training is the most important segment. People want to get a return on their investment on that 1-day training course in a month, in 2 months. That doesn't happen. It takes a good 1 year of commitment to establishing your business, driving awareness in the local area. How do people know you've got the service if you don't offer it? If you don't make them aware that you're there and you're offering the service and it's of a good quality, they will never come to you. So invest in the training and be patient. That was the hardest part for me. I wasn't patient. I almost given up 3 times. And if it wasn't for supportive colleagues like Zach or my family who kind of said, keep persisting, put it on the back burner, and having the option to do the NHS alongside this, that was the biggest safety net I needed. I already had a full-time job I could rely on, and this was a passionate project that then took off and now has redefined my life.
You said earlier that you feel it took a while to see a return on investment. I would argue against that, actually, because let's think about the course structure. You do the foundation and advanced, which is under £2,000. Your insurance, maybe £450 a year.
Yeah.
Your profit margins when you do these sort of treatments are huge. So I found, at least in my own experience, I was able to pay off my learning, my education, and my insurance within a few months. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think you're right. It depends on how serious and focused you are.
Yes.
I mean, people turn up on the course having not prepared. They're already busy in their day-to-day lives, and they expect the business and the success to just fall in their lap.
Yes.
Like having worked as a doctor, you got to put the grind in. You've got some people turn up on the courses. They've made their website. They've got a name ready. They've got leaflets ready to go. They've got a venue, a premises. They're here for the certificate. They're here for the training. They've prepared models after the course to further develop. Then you get those that simply turn up, haven't read the manual. We can almost predict who's going to succeed. Now, we can give you all the recipes to succeed, but it's up to you to do something about it. And as Amrit said, you need to kind of see the numbers. You've got to put in the time, because a lot of injectors fail, I'd say, within the first 6 months of actually having trained, because handling people in the world of aesthetics is different. You're in the private world, expectations are high. You've got to learn how to vet people. You've got to be creative. You've got to manage time, funds, lots of things to juggle here. And your value in this industry is not really dictated by how hard you work. It's your vision. So when a patient comes through the door, they expect us all to have the same degree of knowledge. They expect us to look at their face and say, right, here's what will really work for you, but involve them in that discussion. A lot of injectors, especially newfound injectors, and I was guilty of this, they are led by the patient. People come in through the door, they dictate their consultation. I want this, let's go ahead and proceed with that. And you very quickly learn that not every single treatment suits every patient. You learn through default. You learn through unhappy patients or bad experiences. And the guys that really make something of this are the ones that really understand how to take that and learn from it and actually better themselves. Not to be put off, can't handle the people and quit. Because a high proportion of our delegates, I would say, don't progress. They're either too busy, they can't handle the kind of patient, they haven't got the time, money investment, they feel like they understand the business side of the industry. So there is a lot to learn. If you look at clinics now hiring people, especially as you grow, you're hiring more injectors. They're not looking for somebody who's just on a course. They're looking for somebody who's got more experience, knowing how to handle a business. Because part of what you do is learn the skill. Then you've got to market and sell it. Selling doesn't come natural to many NHS doctors.
No. I still can't talk about money.
A lot of people
hard.
A lot of people can't talk about money, and I think as you get more experience in the industry, that conversation of money is A, very important, and B, it becomes quite natural to you, because you learn very quickly how to attach a value to your skill. Those that find it difficult to talk about money initially after a training course often find it hard to put a value to the skill they have. They're comparing to their colleagues down the road. They offer this, I have to give a discount. I don't want to dissatisfy the patient. I want to make sure that I'm competitive. But let's be honest, this is an industry of luxuries. No one needs this stuff, okay? It's a want. No one needs a pair of Louboutins. No one needs a Ferrari. It's a luxury industry. So if you're good at what you do, if you're ethical, if you buy the book, don't be afraid to charge top dollar for your work because nobody needs it.
That's an interesting point. I noticed that. When I really started understanding the value I offer, when I felt like I was experienced enough to actually outprice my local competitors, because initially you just think, well, they've done it longer than me. Remember, time in the industry does not mean number of patients seen in the industry.
Absolutely.
So even though I've been in the industry for a relatively short period of time in comparison to some colleagues who've been in it 10, 20, 30 years, and I'm still around the 6, 7 year mark, but having seen close to 70 patients a week for many, many years, I've built up years and years of experience. And then working with a collaborative group like Derma Medical, where we've got 70 trainers internationally, and we've got a very tight-knit community, and we have lots of discussions and new techniques are shared, it allowed me to jump my competition locally to the point where, with really aggressive marketing, I could be the one to go to. So when I first increased my prices, I thought, I'm going to see less patients. They're going to go to someone who's cheaper. It got busier. People thought he's more expensive. I want to go to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's the thing you wouldn't expect. It's the opposite.
And I would add to that, a lot of people go in thinking, I have to be very cheap. Of course, we're driven by the finances. There is a reward here financially, but people that are only and solely driven by the finances are the ones that we find quickly drown. You've got to be creative and passionate. You've got to love what you do. Okay, patients will see it, colleagues will see it, you will see it yourself, and you're willing to go through that apprenticeship model where you learn. And as you learn, you get better. As you get better, you get more selective. As you get more selective, your prices increase. So it shouldn't be something you jump in with straight away. My advice to anybody new in the industry is really work yourself up in learning that skill. Get as much training under the belt, get some mentorship, learn your anatomy, because at the end of the day, fear of injecting is a fear of anatomy. So once you have that knowledge, then you tend to be more fearlessly artistic and creative. And that alone is a stepping stone to getting better in the industry.
Thank you, Zach. Hi, my name is Dr. Roche, and not too long ago, I was you. I was working in the NHS, I was underpaid, underappreciated, undervalued. I was not enjoying what I was doing. So I made the decision to go into aesthetics, and I've never looked back. I thoroughly enjoy what I do. I go on holidays when I want to go, I work sometimes 2 hours a day, and I have financial freedom, which is brilliant. I remember being in your position, and getting into the world of aesthetics can be really scary. So we've created an event just for you, the Derma Medical Open Evening. Our first event will be on the 1st of April from 6 to 8 p.m. So for your free refreshments, for sparkling conversation, and to take your first step into the world of aesthetics, book in today. So our podcast is all about honesty and candor. So rather than just talking about the advantages of being in aesthetics, what have been some of the challenges for you both?
I think when you start out financially, if you haven't got the funds to fund it, you can find that you're very quickly in the negatives. You've got to spend the money to make it. And time, especially as a young junior doctor, busy in your day-to-day job, you've got to find the time outside of work to really invest in growing your brand. I would always say if you're growing a business and you want to work on exit, like I did, you want to work on selling one day, brand it in a sort of a medical term, rather than calling it your name. So it's a generic brand. You can employ people. You can offer varied skill sets. There's often disadvantages to competition being a negative factor, and people often see that as a hindrance, especially when it's local, so they have to price cheap. There's competition to finding the time and the resources to see your patients. Those that try to juggle aesthetics around their day job often haven't got the time to see the patients for follow-ups. And then you reach this sort of pivotal aspect. Do I leave and do this full time, or do I do this on the side? What you'll find in this industry, it's growing rapidly, and you're going to be seeing existing patients along with new patients. You reach a cutoff point, like Amrit did when he left ITU. Do I invest my time in growing this business, leave and do it full time, or do I keep supplementing on the side, have my stability and security? And that's a point where many injectors think, I don't know, I'm not really sure. I like stability. Is the risk worth it? So I guess I'd ask you two, having done it yourselves, what do you think? You've recently made the jump.
Of course. So I've been in aesthetics for about 3.5 years. I don't regret it at all, if I'm honest with you. The main reason I went into aesthetics is because I felt underappreciated, undervalued, underpaid as well, frankly, in the NHS, and I just wasn't enjoying what I was doing. So I made the decision to go into aesthetics while I was a junior doctor, and I had the support of being a locum doctor at the same point. So I was locuming as an SHO, so that gave me good financial stability. But I think you're never going to go wrong if you follow your passion. My passion is aesthetics, not only doing great treatments, but also teaching. Derma Medical. So I don't regret it at all. I'm really pleased that I went into the industry, but every person needs to make that decision for themselves.
I think there are definitely challenges with it, and I think absolutely you're right. Passion drives success. So if you enjoy what you do, you'll be good at it, and if you're good at it, you want to do it more, and you want to do it better. And I think I'm a very competitive individual. So for me, even when at medical school, I wanted to be the best. I wanted to get a distinction. I wanted to then be on the most competitive specialty. I wanted to then progress to consultant position as quickly as possible. And it was the same mentality when I went into aesthetics. For me, every patient I saw and treated, I wanted them to get the best result I could possibly give them, not just by AMRIT, by the industry standards. So I would constantly keep pushing myself and the boundaries, and I would then go above and beyond and learn the anatomy and trying to devise a new, better, improved technique of delivering a much better result, which then led to us refining our training, and it got then passed on to other people. So I think it should be patient driven. The money will come. Be patient. Just make sure every single person you see, you're giving them the best possible result, and then word of mouth grows and your business grows. And honestly, it wasn't until I decided to take that risk. Remember, reward follows risk. If there's no risk, there's not likely reward to be associated with it. But if I hadn't made the decision to leave the NHS position, if I'd still continued at that 3 days a week I was at, my business took off the moment I left. Because remember, I had another 3 days a week to contribute to that. And that was what really, really helped it grow and scale. Had I not made that decision, I would still probably be doing it today at that same level. It was that decision that took it to the next level. And it's often these things. The decisions of yesterday define our tomorrow and now our today. So we really need to make the decisions today if you want to change your tomorrow. If where you are today and you're not happy, then if you don't do anything about it today, tomorrow's not going to be any different. And I think it was that approach for me that really, and I think just seeing inspiring individuals, seeing Zach, seeing Sana, seeing what they've done and what they'd built. And, you know, they did it basically off their own graft and discipline and drive. And I thought, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
And I think it was the same thing you saw
Absolutely.
in me. And
you, yeah, absolutely. When I came in for that AMC course, really good course, by the way, book in, it was brilliant. The way you taught was inspirational. And going back to what you said about continuously updating our techniques, I think that's a really great thing about Derma Medical, because I think once you've created a structure, you often just do the same thing. But Amrit, I know for a fact that you've been continuously updating our slides, continuously giving our delegates the very best cutting edge techniques. And I think that's why people flock to Derma Medical. That's why we as a company are so successful. Lovely. So Zach, in 30 seconds, give me 3 tips for an aesthetic newbie to succeed in the industry.
3 tips. Okay. So the first tip is have laser focus. Now you get what you focus on, so focus on what you want. And my priority number 1 would really be to think of a brand. Think of where you want this to be in the next 5 years, how you want it to look. And with that comes specific goals. Now, specifically, are we going to set up in a certain location where we're going to rent? Are we going to purchase a facility? Think about your location. Think about competition in the location. Think about pricing strategy. Okay. Now, you don't want to be too low where you put people off, but too high where you don't get business. Be competitive, be fair, and do charge a deposit. Now, the reason I say charging a deposit, a lot of people don't do this, is because that will get the serious contenders through the door, and that's deductible from treatment. Get yourself active on social media. We're living in a social media generation these days. People aren't booking through the radio or the newspaper. You want to make sure your work is visible. And through visibility, you're going to get the right kind of patient. I mean, if you look at the work I post on Instagram, it's very specific. I target the whole face. I show all the angles. My patients come in educated. They know what they're suitable for. They know how much it costs. They know the quantity. They know the downtime. They're fully informed. 11 years ago when I started doing this, I never used to do that. I'd have to sell to patients and tell them bit by bit what I recommend for them. But by having an active, a very well-targeted social media platform, you're going to see somebody on social media who says, I look like that. That looks like my face shape. That took 10 minutes, 7 mils. I'm interested. Your consultation is almost being done online. Therefore, you get the right patient through the door. So get active on social media. To do that, you're going to need models. Just like we set up models on our training courses, I recommend recruiting models yourself. Charge them the cost price, product price, for the purpose of advertising, and make sure you're regularly posting content daily. You know, your third arm is going to be your phone initially. You're going to be posting daily. You're going to be hashtagging. You're going to be making sure your work is active. You're responding and engaging, because your clientele is looking at your work, is judging you, and that's going to be dictating your business. If you want to go a step further, the way I tend to work is I look at the face holistically. People start by looking at individual areas, but the minute you treat one part of the face, they're going to start to notice what's missing. Treating a chin, you'll notice the jaw. If you widen the jaw, the cheeks change. The profile's impacted. So show all the angles and show patients the benefit of harmonizing the face. That will distinguish you in the industry, get traffic to the door, and of course, you want to get the word out there. So get active on social.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Zach. That was a little bit more than 30 seconds, but we'll forgive you for that. Lovely. Thank you so much for listening, guys. That was our podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope it was of some value to you. So please do give us a like, comment, share, and let us know in the comments what you want to hear. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again for our next episode, where we'll be talking with Naomi from Lockton Insurance.